All right. If I could please get your full name.
My full name is Toni Burruss.
And if I could also get your birth date, please.
My birthday is September 25th, 1963.
All right. Thank you. My name is Alexa-Tellez-Mansy, and I will be interviewing her. Well, my first question would be, how long have you lived in Ashland?
I've lived in Ashland all my life.
All your life. Wow.
I'm a lifelong resident.
Lifelong resident. What was it like growing up in Ashland as a kid?
It was a wonderful experience. As a kid, we had freedom to walk around. As a child, pretty much, you had your rules because they say old school. Our parents could trust us. We were 9 and 10 years old. We could walk to what we called downtown, which actually means you just walk to the heart of the town. And we used to go to Hughes's drugstore as kids and used to get ice cream and milkshakes and things like that. And it was a wonderful experience. Everybody grew up, the community that I'm in, everybody grew up loving one another. They could discipline you, and it was just a total family atmosphere. And it was very, very rural, much more rural than what it is now. Mm-hmm.
Compared to now, to your childhood, do you think that it has improved? Has Ashland improved since then, or did you like the rural, kind of smaller town aspect of it?
Well, I miss the smaller town atmosphere. I really do, because that's the way I grew up, and I was happy that way. But, as time changed, so does growth. It's just managing growth. We're just busier now. The only thing I don't like about the town is the amount of cars. Mm-hmm. That's the part I don't like. Of course, it was less cars back in the day, but that's the only thing I don't like about it is the traffic issue.
Mm-hmm. So now that there's more cars, when you were growing up, was it just you just walked everywhere and that's how you got around?
Yeah, we definitely walked everywhere we had to go. And you didn't have any problems with strangers, not like you do today. I have a 11-year-old niece now, and we don't even trust her walking to my mom's house, which is just, a block away. Whereas, when we were younger, we would walk as a group of our friends, and we could walk anywhere all over Ashland because everybody knew everybody, and all you had to do was give your last name, and they knew what family you were with. So you couldn't get away with anything because everybody knew who you were or whose family you belonged to, and they knew what your family stood for. So someone always knew what was going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So with the recognition of the name, were your grandparents, your parents also longtime residents of Ashland?
Oh, yeah. My grandfather, yeah. My mom is from Caroline County, but my father's people are from this area. The Burrusses are.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, everyone knew who you were, and they could report back to your family.
It was good. It has its good points and has its bad points. Yeah, it has its good and bad points. Because you can't get away with anything because everybody knows who you are. Even at my age now, people know who you are, especially the older people. And you couldn't get away with a lot. Let's put it that way. You couldn't get away with a lot.
So with this growing atmosphere, Ashland has somewhat lost that. Do you still get recognition with your name now?
Yes, I do. Generally with older people, the older residents. But because the town has grown so much, and we've had and it's interesting, the thought process of a lot of people in Ashland. If you haven't been born and raised here, you're considered an outsider. No matter how many years you've moved here and you stayed here, you'll hear old Ashland say that. Mm-hmm. And you could have people who've been here 30 years, but if you weren't born and raised here, you're considered an outsider. And it's changed. I mean, it's changed, but like I said, a lot of old Ashland still thinks that way. But as far as being recognized, it's not like it used to be. It's getting away from it because we have so many new people coming in, and they don't remember when like we do. And so it's changing. Yeah, growth is changing. Mm-hmm.
A lot of these new people, do they tend to just be from all over Virginia, do you know, or they kind of from around the country?
I think probably from around the country. I think a lot of people moved here thinking that, they love the small town atmosphere, so they want to come here and raise their children. However, everybody wants to move here, so it doesn't stay that small town atmosphere if everybody wants to move here and raise their children like that. So, yeah, it's changed quite a bit. Yeah.
So as a child growing up, did you ever encounter the Ashland police force getting into any mischief or anything like that?
Oh, Lord, no. Oh, no. If I ever got in trouble, I got murdered, you know. My brother got in trouble once for stealing some bubble gum out of 7-Eleven, but even then, it was such a small atmosphere. The people that worked in the store knew you, and they would call your parents. Okay. I mean, it had to be something serious, in my opinion, for the police to have gotten involved. And we didn't have the police force then like we do now. Although it's still small, but then you only had like 1 or 2 police that you knew, and they lived in the community. So you respected the police then. You respected their position. So it's not like it is now, where a lot of people just don't respect law enforcement. They just do whatever, you know. And we had our problems in the town then, but it was something when everybody would sit back. Everybody, let's say, for instance, everybody knew if you had an alcoholic, and we say town drunk, and you knew who they were, but it's not like it is today. You know, that you still respected them if they were adults, and so even though they had a problem, you still respected them. And the police, you know, in that day, they didn't just lock you up for anything. They would talk to you, or they would take you home, you know, or they talk to a family member. So it was sort of like the Mayberry effect with Andy Griffith, you know. They carried guns, but they did more talking than they did enforcement. So it was, huge difference.
Speaking of colorful characters, were there any growing up, like store owners or people in particular that stand out in your mind?
Used to go with my mother all the time to buy stockings and buy candy and toys, mostly clothing items from Flowers department store. Billy Flowers owned a department store on a railroad track, and as kids, we used to go there all the time and shop. Used to go to Barnes's Barnes's store, and used to go to Hughes's. Okay. And remember the Hanover Pharmacy? That's where you went for all of your medicines and prescriptions, and they had old remedies that you just don't see exist anymore. And, you know, like if you get a bee sting or something, everybody goes and get a Benadryl shot or, you know, something like that. But back in their day, they had some kind of solution, Burruss solution that you could buy, and you could just soak it and put it on your arm, and it would dry up the bee sting or dry up poison ivy. You don't see stuff like that anymore. So, yeah, Hanover Pharmacy, Hughes's drugstore, Barnes's drugstore, and Flowers department store. We used to love that, and we used to love to go to Crosses to buy the donuts. I would go with my grandmother as a little girl, and you couldn't leave out of Crosses to get, you know, unless you got a donut. So yeah, I remember those days. Yeah.
Oh, well, I recognize that some of those places aren't still standing anymore. Does that affect, you know, the atmosphere?
Crosses is the only one still here.
It's lost part of that.
Oh yeah, a lot of. I think that's probably one of the few original stores that are still here. Yeah.
Growing up, what school did you go to?
I went to Henry Clay in 1969. That was the first year we integrated schools here in Ashland. Went to Hanover, and Melvin Hall was our principal, who was our neighbor. And I went to Liberty Middle School, and then it was 8th and 9th graders. Well, I went to Henry Clay first, then went to John M. Gandy. John M. Gandy was from 4th to 7th grade. Liberty Middle was 8th and 9th grade, and I went to Patrick Henry for 10th through 12th grade. And then I came to Randolph-Macon after that.
So you entered Randolph-Macon as a freshman?
In 1981, September 1981.
And you graduated from Randolph-Macon?
I believe June 2nd, 1985. Yeah.
Did you enjoy your time here at Randolph-Macon?
Yes, I did. However, when I think back, I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have. I didn't participate on campus as much as I should have, and a lot of it had to do with the fact I lived at home. I walked to class every day. So I felt like I really didn't benefit from the atmosphere as if I had lived on campus and was away from my parents. Because most of the employees that were here were the people that were either my family members or they were neighbors. So again, you couldn't do but so much. Not that I was going to do anything, out of the way, but, and talking to my father when I graduated, my dad said, yeah, I pretty much knew everything you did on campus. It's just that I had to treat you as if you were living away. And I was like, oh, that was horrifying to hear. And I mean, I didn't really get anything serious. Other than as usual, you drink and you party, and I did a lot of that my freshman year, but by my sophomore year and all of it, I became a little bit more serious. And so, yeah, I was, in Star Dorm, at that time it was all boys, yeah, you run after guys, but I couldn't do too much without relatives watching me or neighbors watching me and probably going back and telling my father what I was doing, but I don't think it was anything that would alarm my father, yeah. Yeah, but my experience, I think, could have been better. I had fun, but it could have been better. I miss the camaraderie of classmates. I know my classmates by name. I know someone by face, but I don't have a relationship with them because I lived at home. I was only close with a couple of them, and then when I went to Randolph-Macon, it was only 10 blacks then out of 9. I think it was about 900 students. So, we were truly minority here, and so. Trying to assimilate and fit in and trying to go to class and still dealing with some attitudes and behaviors in class. But for the most part, I was okay because I was able to go back home, whereas some of my classmates, they had to stay on campus and live and deal with it. But I was well taken care of while I was here because of the employees and because they knew my family. And I was the first to go to college in my family. So people took care of me. My family took care of me, and the employees took very, very good care of me here. So I didn't want for anything. I was probably more spoiled outside of campus than I was on. Okay. So yeah, I was well taken care of. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nice to hear. Yeah, but the only thing I always encourage kids sometimes is best to move away from home, and that was something I talked to my dad about. It's best to move away from home because you grow up quicker. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up quick. Because if anything went wrong, I could always go back home. And I would spend the night every now and then with a couple of friends of mine on campus, and just so I could get the experience and have fun of staying on campus. But yeah, it was different. But I think if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have stayed on campus, and I would have participated more. We didn't have sororities then, so I was an AE Pi little sister, which it was just a handful of us girls. And you couldn't do but so much, in the fraternity. And we were kind of like, at that time, we were kind of like the nerds on campus. So I just didn't develop any strong relationships. So sometimes I feel a little disconnected from the college because I don't have real ties. Whereas a lot of people come back to homecoming. I came back a couple of times to homecoming and things like that, and I enjoyed it. But I couldn't sit at homecoming like, hey, yeah, you remember we used to do so-and-so? I don't have those type of memories. I don't have that, and that's what I miss. But I got a good education. And that's something that I'm not sorry about. Randolph-Macon gave me a very good education. I had choices to go to several other colleges, and my father kind of talked me, kind of strong-armed me into coming here, and I think that's just so he could keep me close to home, and I was the oldest. And so, and his, daughter, so, but I loved the small classroom atmosphere. I really learned a lot, and I think I flourished a lot because of the mentality and the level of intelligence here on campus. And it was a struggle because I had one set of friends at home and I had a set of friends here, and it's tough because they don't understand the changes you're going through when you're amongst peers who think like you and act like you. They want you to still be homegirl when you're there, so. But I loved the intellectual atmosphere that I had. I fit right in when it came to. They really challenged me to think, which I think is the reason why I'm the way that I am. And it's not that you have, when you come out of Randolph-Macon, it's not that you think that you're better, but it's just that your thought process is just so different. And so, and you always hear people say, oh, you must have been smart to come to Randolph-Macon. No, I don't think it was that. It's that they challenged you to want to know more and to do more. So the expectations of you when you graduate is fairly high. Yeah, but I love the educational atmosphere of the school.
And do you think that is why now you're also an educator?
I ran from being an educator for years. In fact, I went through, we had teacher preparation courses, and I did it just to have something to fall back on, just to satisfy my father, you know. I didn't finish because my senior year, I needed student teaching, and I didn't want to come back one more semester. I wanted to graduate. But I just had, I just went ahead and took that anyway, and I didn't start teaching until 10 years ago. I always tutored on the side, always had. But it took my old middle school principal to convince me to take advantage of, doing what I was doing, because I was in corporate America working. Okay. That's what I was doing. And so, and I got tired of it. It just wasn't me, and I love working with kids. I just love teaching, period, whether it's an adult or a child. And so Randolph-Macon helped prepare me for that. They gave me the leadership skills that I needed to do what I'm doing, and to not be fearful of being who I am and thinking the way that I think. Sometimes it's a struggle when people don't understand why you think the way that you do. So they teach you to be confident about that, and that's why I said that's the reason why I love the atmosphere here, the educational atmosphere. They teach you to be strong in who you are. And so when I finally, I left corporate America, gave 3-day notice. I was working at Virginia Power and just decided it wasn't for me, and just started teaching like a couple of days later, and just been doing it ever since. Yeah, so.
And so you teach at Georgetown School in Mechanicsville?
Yeah, it's an alternative school. And people think it's challenging to work in an alternative school. Actually not. They always think an alternative school is for bad kids, because you always hear about the negative things that go on. Hanover, we're blessed. We have really good kids. I always believe there's no such thing as bad kids. It's just how you have to be able to adapt to reach to that kid for that particular level or situation that they're in. Same way with adults, because I teach GED, so the adults that come back are generally the kids that dropped out years ago or were troubled years ago. They get about 19, 20, 21 years old, and they realize, oh, hey, this is not how the real world works. So now I got to come back and get what I need to get so that I can move forward. Yeah, we're blessed. It's a brand new building. We started out at the school board, and then we ended up in trailers behind Patrick Henry. And so I've been through that transition, and now we're in our own building where the kids have, we can offer even more opportunities for the kids. And so I enjoy that. I always enjoy talking to the kids, finding out where their head is, why they got to the point that they have, and then just to help them strategize and determine where I want to be 5 years from now. Where do I want to be next year? Where do I want to be the next month? So they can be successful, and try to help them manage through the problems that they're having. Yeah, because a lot of times the problems are not due to them. Sometimes it's home life. And it's much different. And, when I was coming up, we had responsibilities when we were young. And so now kids today don't have a lot of responsibilities like we did. I went to work. I started working at the college when I was 13 years old. That was my first job, because I wanted to go overseas. And so I told my dad I wanted to go to England and Scotland. And this was a travel group that was offered at high school. And they said, well, if you want to go, you got to get a job. Well, back in the day, 13 years old, where are you going to work and get a paycheck? So Randolph-Macon hired me, and my first job was putting salad in the bowls. And I'll never forget it, working in the cafeteria. And I worked there until I was about 17. And but that year, I saved $600 that summer. My dad paid for my trip overseas. So, we just had responsibility. And so by me being the oldest, even at a younger age, I was responsible for my younger brothers and sisters. I had to clean the house. We had to cut grass. We had to do all of that. Whereas now, I look at my nieces, they don't do half of what we did when we were kids. So that makes a difference. The responsibility. You grow up quicker and you become stronger quicker. And like I say, my father just taught us to be leaders, not followers. Or so. And just trying to help these kids to understand you can be a leader too. You missed out on some things, but this is what you need to do to be successful, in the future.
So you said your first job was here at Randolph-Macon when you were 13. How do you think that helped you get the money to go abroad? How after that, like, did you feel like empowered? You know, you were 13 and you had gone in and gotten a job and all that.
Well, my father owned his own business, and it's real interesting. My father had a trash business when I was growing up, and sort of like what you see waste management do. And so when I got my first job at 13, and I worked after school from like 3 to 7, working the dinner, and I would work weekends from 7 to 7. And so and I was always very faithful. But I got the hard work ethic from my parents because that's all I knew, watching my father run his business and watching my mother, because they not only had a trash business, but they had tractor trailers. And so my mom drove, my dad drove, and then when we got old enough, I was the only one that didn't drive. My brother drove. And so I grew up watching my father get up 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, going to work, coming home, taking care of paperwork, and then he taught us how to do it. So it wasn't anything unusual for me to work like I did as a teenager. I knew if I wanted things, I had to work. Now, my dad could afford to give me those things, but, you had to earn it. And so, and then without me having to always constantly go to my father for money, I wanted my own. And even then, I still couldn't spend it like I wanted to, but still, the fact that it was there. So, yeah, I worked, and I think as a teenager, I worked hard. And I didn't work here during the summers. And I think the first time, my freshman year, my father wouldn't let me work, which was disheartening for me because I was used to working. And so my father said no. He said, I want you to spend the first year getting acclimated to the college and to college life. And I was just used to always working. And so, which I'm glad he made that decision. I really am. He let me work my sophomore year up to my senior year. I would work on weekends, but I couldn't work during the week. And so, yeah, it's interesting that, you grew up around the college. You used to come and watch the games as a kid because my grandfather used to stand out in front of the Star, and they used to stand on their trucks and watch the games because at that time they weren't allowed to come into and watch the games in those days. And so, and it's just interesting, as a child seeing all of that and then one day having to attend here. He didn't live long enough to see me graduate, but my grandmother on my mother's side lived long enough to see me graduate. And so I just wanted him to be proud. I wanted to make sure that I was successful, that, that they could see that everything they taught me wouldn't be in vain. And so, yeah, so that's pretty much how it was then.
Oh, wow. And so, sorry, that's my spot for a second. May I ask, growing up, did you and your family attend church?
Oh, Lord, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, as a teenager, we went. I don't tell you how much we paid attention. But we went, and most time you went because you wanted to be with your friends, Yeah. As a kid, it was expected for you to go to Sunday school and go to church. So yeah, and as most people, my father, he kind of stepped away for a while. We did too for a while. We went, but we just wasn't serious. Whereas it's much different now. My father's a minister, and so am I. So we're all very, very active in the church now. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you didn't want to face grandma if you didn't go. My grandfather was a deacon, so my father, of course, by him being a deacon, my father's father, he was expected to be at church, Sunday school and revivals and things like that.
Is that by chance the same church that you are still attending today?
Yeah, I still attend Shiloh Baptist. Yeah, that's our family church. Now, my father goes to Union Baptist now. And my siblings, they attend other churches too. But I'm the only one still at the original church.
Is the original church in Ashland or?
It's right on James Street, 106 South James, right where the 7-Eleven is. It's right across the street. That's where we go.
Okay. Um, do you remember the greatest joy or sadness in your childhood?
Yeah, oh wow. The greatest joy I had in my childhood was my friends when we would go over to where the school board is now. Well, it was there then, but it hadn't expanded where John and Gandy is too. And we used to hang out every day. And we used to just sit and we used to just listen to the music, latest songs that would come out, talk about the songs, talk about the artists, and we would just sit and just hang all day long. Because you didn't go home till it got dark. Because if you were at home, at that time, you were at home during the day, Mom found something for you to do. So we would go outside every day, and that's something, I noticed too, the kids don't do anymore. We used to go outside. And we used to sit, we used to just hang and just talk. We didn't get into anything, but we would just hang, and we were like my childhood friends. I mean, we're still good friends to this day. We still come to the aid of one another. And the guys didn't take advantage of us, I tell my nieces now, your friends, they really aren't friends. When we were talking about friends, we were there for one another. We got in trouble together. We had good times together. And it's like one of my friends recently, two brothers, they lost their father. I mean, it was nothing for us to just step up to the plate. What do you need us to do? How can we help you? That kind of thing. They know we're going to come to each other's aid. That's why I consider a good friend. And we have been, like I said, since children. So my greatest joy is when we used to just sit together and the guys would look after the girls. They made sure guys coming from other communities didn't take advantage of us. They were like big brothers. And my sister married one of her friends. But that's my greatest joy, is just sitting, with my friends. And we, now when we sit together, talk about old times and just laugh about how much fun we had. Probably the saddest time, that I can remember in my childhood. That's interesting. Probably my sophomore year at Randolph-Macon. I really went through sort of an emotional and mental breakdown. And I think because I worked so much and I had high expectations for myself, and it wasn't anything that anybody put on me, but it's what I put on myself, because I wanted to be successful and didn't want to disappoint my family and didn't want to disappoint friends. I really went through something around the beginning of my sophomore year. I think I was just burned out. I think that's what was going on. And I had a really hard time, and I called one of my professors one night, and I was just sitting there just crying and couldn't figure out why. And just realized I was just mentally broken at that time. And I was, after a while, I was all right. She talked to me for a long time, and I was all right. That studying, staying up late, and then juggling living at home and being at school, and you got to be one way at home and you got to be another way on campus. It just takes a toll on you. I didn't recognize it then. I recognize it now. That's what was going on. But and then you're going through changes. I'm getting older. And I think that was probably one of the lowest moments that I can ever remember, in my life, was the beginning of, in fact, it was, I got sick from ulcers because I was taking NoDoz and Vivarin and drinking coffee, and that probably didn't help either. And I had a gastritis attack and ended up in the hospital the night before. It's stress. It was stress. And I was supposed to start class, I think, that first day of my sophomore year, and I was just sick. I was just real sick. And I ended up having ulcers from it.
But you were able to recover and
graduated on time. I did my senior year. Oh man, I had one professor. Lord, I had a history professor. That man gave me a F on my term paper. I had him my first semester for American history, and I came out with a C. So I went to take in my second semester, and all the seniors like, "Are you crazy? Nobody ever takes that particular professor's class that second semester of the senior year. He's gonna flunk you." Evidently, he had a history of flunking seniors. And I said, I was just like, "Oh no, he ain't gonna do me like that. He's not gonna do me like that." I said, "I came out with a C in his class," and they said, "Oh no, I'm telling you." They told me, "I'm telling you, he has a history." How they know, I don't know, because they were seniors like me. And so I took the class, did a term paper, and he gave me an F on it. And that was horrifying because I never got an F on a term paper. And so I ended up going back to the writing center, and then I got a student that helped me. I never forgot her name, Joyce. And I think her name was Joyce Luck. And Joyce Luck was, I think that's what her name was, one of the best writers or something on campus. And she helped me with the paper. And then I was babysitting part-time too. So I had a professor who used to be here, Dr. Merritt, his wife. She was an English major. And so she helped me with my term paper. And he gave me a D- when I turned it back in. I went to him and I talked to him, and he gave me a D-. And I needed a C to graduate because history was my major. So, Dr. Porter, he was my advisor, and I was torn up because I had bought my announcements, all of that for graduation, had told my family, everybody was going to be there. And I was like, "Oh, God," I had to go crying to my dad, and I said, "I'm not going to graduate." He said, "Well, do you need me to go there and talk to him?" I said, "Daddy," I said, "this is not high school. The professor could care less about you." So I ended up going to Dr. Porter, and he knew what I needed. And he taught this class, and he and I still talk about it today, The Ascent of Man. And because I was such a history lover, I had seen it on PBS. So I already had seen the show. He just happened to teach from the show, and I ended up getting a C out of the class. And that's how I graduated. And then when I was there, we didn't have January colloquy like they do now. They changed it to May term. And I still say they did that on purpose to us. Because after I graduated, they went back to January colloquy. But we had what we call May term. And so I never had a free May term. I had to take a class. Everybody else could have a whole month off. I never had a month off. So I think I needed one more semester, and I would have got a French concentration. But could have got a minor. But yeah, man, that almost not graduating from here. Yeah, that almost did it to me. I almost freaked out again because I did not want to come back an extra semester. Not for one class. No. Yeah, I was happy to get that C.
Oh my gosh. What was the name of the professor who?
Golly. I can see him now. He might have retired. He wrote a book about Randolph-Macon. Oh my Lord. I had Reinhardt. I had Porter. I had I had a German professor start with an H. This guy taught American history. And he had these difficult exams. He gave you, put one question on the board. No, two questions. Describe America up to 1850 or describe America from 1850 on. So, you was like, what are you going to write about? Lord, I can't think of the man's name, but he was short. He used to walk a dog around campus every day. And it was from Caroline County. I remember that because he knew my mom's family. Oh, Lord, I can see his face. Probably if I had an old yearbook, I can point him straight out to you, but I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name. You can see him right now.
Where were you born?
What hospital? St. Philip's. That was MCV. And at that time, MCV was split between, where African-American babies could be born, where, anybody else could be born. And so St. Philip's was the hospital that my mother went to when I was born in 63.
And you said you had a brother. Do you have more siblings?
Yeah, it's 6 of us total. And I have one brother and there's 5 girls. So I'm the oldest. So,
Did you enjoy growing up with a large family?
Yeah, Because we're extremely close. We talk to each other all the time, and some people look at it, not strangely, but they're fascinated by the fact that we're all extremely close, and we talk to each other, we lay each other out, and because we're so close, and I can have one brother-in-law, and he fits in like a brother, so it's difficult sometimes. I was just talking about it with somebody how sometimes it's difficult because we're so close that somebody from the outside can come in because you got to be used to our family style. If you're not used to it, you could easily be offended. Easily be offended because we just stay with one another. My mother raised us like that, so that's how we are.
And did your siblings also like growing up in Ashland?
I think of the professor's name, Scanlon. Yeah. Dr. Scanlon, that's who it was. I was sitting there thinking about when you asked me that question. Yeah, they loved, growing up in Ashland. In fact, my sister moved back to Ashland for the simple fact that, because she has girls. And so her girls can walk down to my mom and them house. And she likes the fact that they're in a community where everybody still knows us. And so she knows there's somebody watching her girls too. So, yeah.
That's a nice feeling. During your childhood, who was in charge of decisions such as like housekeeping and budgeting and things like that?
My mother and my father. They were in charge of all of that.
Do you have any children?
No. I'm not married either. I don't have. My sister is the only one that's married. It's two of the girls that have kids. One of my younger sisters has 2 boys, and the one that's right underneath me has 3 girls. And she's the only one right now that's married, the one that's right underneath me. The rest of us aren't married, or other than the other one, and don't have children.
Sounds like an odd question. Where did you get milk and ice? Things like that.
Oh, that's interesting, though. That's not odd. Now, we didn't have an ice truck. I would think that's probably my father's generation. They come and drop off ice, because we did have refrigerator and all that. But milk, my father used to work at Curl's Neck Dairy. And we could go in the store and buy milk. I'm not that old, but we used to have milk and juice delivered to us. And we used to have a milkman that used to come by and leave milk on the front porch when I was growing up. I do remember that. And you know how you have those little gallon things of water where you could just pull a little spout out? We used to have our milk like that. So when we would get cereal, we used to open up the refrigerator door and pull the spout and get our milk and push it back in. And we used to get juice also, because like I said, my dad worked at Curl's Neck Dairy, so he used to bring it home, and that's what we used to have. And then, like I said, we used to have a milkman. They used to come and leave our milk on the porch too, the glass bottles of milk. Yeah, I remember that. I was real young, but I remember.
Do you wish like it was still like that? Or?
Yeah, there's some things I wish it was still the same. No, I think that, as far as that, I like the convenience of going to the store and get what I need, Yeah. But for the most part, some things you wish they were still the same. I still wish we had the type of community that we do, where everybody, you know your neighbors, and everybody get together, and just enjoy one another. Now we're at a point where you know your neighbors, but you really don't, you don't know the history or whatever, so you're still kind of cautious, about where you live.
How do you feel about some of the new businesses, such as Homemades by Suzanne's and Ashland Coffee and Tea? How do you feel about them now that they're in Ashland?
I don't have any problem with them. I now I go to Suzanne's. I really don't, go into Ashland Coffee and Tea. Or like Iron Horse, whatever. They're a little expensive, but they're not, it's just not my cup of tea per se, going in there. I go in Suzanne's because they have good food. I don't go in there often, but I don't have any problem with them, being here. I always say, if a business comes, that is service all residents of the town of Ashland for all residents to be able to patronize them. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. Yeah, but I don't have any problem with them being here.
How did you feel about the Walmart coming in?
Oh, I was on the planning commission when the Walmart came in. I was definitely 100% behind Walmart. When I first heard Walmart was coming, at first I was against it because I like the small town atmosphere. But I grew up here all my life, and I've had I even had a resident when I voted for Walmart. Resident come up to me and tell me, said, "Well, you just really don't care about Ashland." I said, "If I really didn't care about Ashland, I wouldn't have wanted you to move here because I know you're not from here." You know, and sometimes people don't think about what they say, but I remember Ashland when it was dirt road. You know, I remember when England Street was just 2 lanes. You know, I remember when Route 1 didn't look anything like it looked, and all of it was wooded. You know, even where the post office was. That's how when I grew up. But like I said, you can't stop change. It's how you manage change. The Walmart, I have no problem with it whatsoever. It's outside of the town anyway. It's not within the town limits. The traffic going to Walmart doesn't affect the heart of the town. Although traffic is awful in the heart of the town, it's because of the added small businesses that we have in here. I found it interesting that some of the people that were against Walmart, and I was like, well, my God, you weren't against U-Crops when they came to Ashland. You weren't against Food Line when they came to Ashland, so why all of a sudden Walmart? They're not going to take your business. They're going to add to the town. I mean, we could use the tax money to help, offset some of the things that we need here in the town, because it's the businesses on Route 54 that really keeps this town going, in my opinion. And so, because otherwise we'd be paying taxes out of yin yang, so, and we already pay a double tax. We pay a town and a county tax. And I still say we get the best of services, than anywhere here in Hanover County, how many places do you know in Hanover County where you know your officers personally? You can see them shopping in the store with you, that kind of thing. So you see your town planner, you're in U-Crops, you stop and talk, how the kids doing, that kind of thing. But as far as Walmart, I was against it at first when I first heard they were coming. And then as I listened to the position, my thing was when I voted for the Walmart, I listened to what the public wanted. Not my personal opinion. I listened to what the public wanted. And when I heard a lot of the elderly in the town talk about that they offer some things that they can't get at these other stores, and I have to think about my grandmother and how somebody has to drive her to Richmond to get what she need, and I can have a store right here, and you have what you need. And then one of the store owners, I'll never forget, got up in a meeting and said, well, I can get that in the store, but why should we have to tell you so that you can go get it in your store when this store is going to carry it anyhow? And, cheaper prescriptions. And plus they brought employment to the town. And so I looked at that. But as in anything, politics is always involved. Walmart didn't choose to come to Ashland on their own. Anybody who's smart enough in government knows that a store doesn't just ride around the country looking for a place to come. They were brought here. I was smart enough to know that. And it was old Ashland that brought them here for I'm smart enough to know that they were brought here for an investment for somebody. So, I was for the Walmart. I was for the Walmart. Yeah, a lot of people are just not educated about politics of what actually goes on. But big business like that, it's going to happen. It's just that you got to manage it. We went to Chesterfield and looked at how that Walmart was built out on Iron Bridge Road. You can tell a business how you want it to look to fit into your structure of your locality. So, we told them what we wanted. We told them what they couldn't have. Like this particular Walmart is a super Walmart, but it doesn't have the auto mechanics side of it like some of them you see. And because we told them we didn't want that, and so they honored that, So there's a give and take on the table, and that's what you have to do. That's why I say you got to manage it. You don't let it control you, but you manage it.
You said that you were on the committee. Being on the committee, were there other decisions about the town that you participated in?
On the planning commission, you dealt with some zonings, things like that. you had how can I explain it? Anybody that wanted to build something or expand, and sort of as an example, they would have to come before the town, apply for a permit, and get permission to do whatever they need to do. And that's what I served on. If I'm correct, it was 7 of us. I believe it was 7 of us that served on the planning commission. And then in turn, we would say yay or nay, and then it gets forwarded to the town council, and the town council would look at what our recommendations. Our job was to do all the legwork. So that when council got it, they would have all the stuff in front of them, what we've done, the studies or the questions we've asked, to save them time in making their decision. They would look at what we've done and they say, okay, well, they've taken care of this, they've asked this, things that I wanted to know. Okay, well, we approve or we disapprove, this going on. So that was our job. Basically, we did the legwork. Okay.
What do you know about the original Henry Clay Inn?
Very little. I didn't even know that it existed until they built this one. And I still haven't read much on it. I've read very little about it, other than I heard that back in the day, in the 1800s or so, it burned down. But I don't know. I know very little history about the Henry Clay Inn.
Do you know some of the other local industry businesses, such as like the racetrack on Ashcake Road?
Racetrack?
Mm-hmm.
On Ashcake?
Mm-hmm.
I know of some of the local businesses. I've never seen a racetrack on Ashcake Road. Because I pretty much know where everything is. And then some of those businesses, like I said, when I was on the planning commission, had to get permission to build. Other than I know Sheets is on Ashcake. Is a racetrack about to be built on Ashcake Road?
I don't think so.
I think it dealt with horses.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the actual auto store called Racetrack.
Okay.
There is yeah, I know about that. I don't know if it's, God knows, I don't know if it's still active or not. And I know that, there's like a little farm out there. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah, I remember that as a child coming up with them being out there right across from Tylertown, a little daycare center. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The shirt factory?
I don't know much about the shirt factory stuff other than I know people that have worked there, and I used to hear them talk about it. I knew where it was, which is right across the street. It's not is it Henry Clay Road? I think it's right off of Henry Clay Road, right where the Weems building is located. If I'm correct, is where the shirt factory used to be. And I just used to hear my aunts, from what I understand, everybody worked there back in the day, just like when with me working at Randolph-Macon, all teenagers worked at Randolph-Macon in the cafeteria. So, I used to hear them talk about it all the time.
And some of the other local ones like Duke's Market, Cross Brothers.
Duke's used to sell that old-fashioned, what my mom called hard rock candy. And we would go there every Christmas season, and she said that's the only place she could go and buy the old-fashioned hard rock candy. It's not, it's no more than like the candy you see in a tin box, but evidently it was homemade candy probably, she used to go there and get it every Christmas because she loved it, having it as a child. So, yeah, I used to go to Duke's and used to get certain meats that you can't get anywhere else. Same thing with Crosses. You could get meats there, they were fresh meat, and it was good. Yeah.
And then Hughes, you mentioned earlier, Hughes Drugstore, Mayberry Store, Lounsbury Bakery.
The only bakery I knew was Lightfoot Bakery. And Lightfoot Bakery is right across the street from where my sister currently lives. But they, of course, he's, long gone, him and his wife. Lightfoot Bakery was on Henry Street, and everybody used to go there. He was a baker, and he was a deacon out of our church. And oh my God, that man made the best. Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme doesn't even touch how this man made his donuts. And for years, I didn't eat any other donut even after he stopped making them. I wouldn't eat any other donut because I grew up eating his, and he just had a different, his, oh, they were good. They would melt in your mouth. Even when they were cold and hard, they were good. And you used to just go all the time after school. And if you had a nickel or so and go buy a couple of donuts, you could get like 4 for a quarter or something like that. And it was a little teeny bakery, an old building. And he would make cakes and all kinds of stuff. He was well known, very well known for it. And he had one of his apprentices that we found in Richmond on 25th Street, and was making donuts the way he used to make it. And when people found out he was out there, my father would go and buy boxes of donuts. And he's retired now, so he left. I think his children or grandchildren, they didn't want to run the business. But I haven't found anybody else. Anybody that has ever been in Life of Bakery would tell you they've never found anybody to make donuts like this man did. Like I said, Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme doesn't even touch, because his donuts being homemade and the sugar and everything on it, the sugar would be like almost like flakes on his donuts. They're, you know how Dunkin' Donuts, they just dip theirs in there. He didn't do, I don't know how he did his, but nobody's ever made it like him. Nobody. I've never tasted anybody else's donut taste like his.
And then the Ashland feed store has been here for a while.
Oh yeah, Lord, as long as I can ever remember. Yeah, they're still here.
And things like livestock and all, because there are farms around here. Was that still the case?
Not now. You don't see farms like you used to. You had the Luck farm when you, like, on your way up to Patrick County High School. They got the pond on the left, and he used to have cattle and all of that out there. He used to have barns out there. And you don't, of course, you know, we don't take that stuff over anymore. So, a lot of farms are gone. They're not around like they used to. And my grandfather had, you know, animals. You had animals down here in the neighborhood that people had their own cows and things like chickens and stuff. You don't see, of course, all that's gone now. Yeah, all that is gone.
And then Painter's department store.
Yeah, I remember Painters. I didn't shop in there as much as I did Flowers. Painters was a little bit on the more upscale, if I can remember as a child. That's how I viewed it. But yeah, Painters existed. Yeah, sure. I forgot all about them.
Do you know of like some of the historic landmarks that have been around here for 50 years or older? Like the oldest house.
No, I couldn't tell you who has the oldest house. I remember a lot of old houses, but I couldn't tell you who got the oldest one. Not at all. My parents currently live in the Miss Bundy's house. We bought that when I was probably about 12 or 13 years old. She was the principal of John M. Gandy, which is the African American school for this community in Hanover. And they live right across the street from the school. I know that's a landmark. And not offhand, unless you name them, I can tell you, you know, if I remember them or not.
And then as for the transportation, the railroad, what do you think about the railroad in Ashland? Do you feel like it gives the town more personality, or?
Oh yeah, it does. We grew up living on a railroad track. So the trains coming by at night, that's not unusual. I grew up with that. So yeah, definitely. That's what we were known for, you know, railroad town. And we got cab service here. I remember back in the day, Foster's cab service. There used to be several cab services right where Hometown Realty is. Mr. Flowers' mother used to have a shop there called Flowers too. And in fact, the cab drivers used to park right where the library is, the Ashland Library. That was a parking lot when I was a kid. And they used to park right there on the side of the street, and there used to be a telephone on the pole, and the telephone would ring real loud. And when the telephone would ring, you know, whoever was first would go answer the phone, go pick up, and then whoever was next. Because my grandmother used to ride the cab. And so used to have, I think, about 3 or 4 cab services that used to be parked along right there in front of where the library is currently located. And used to have the telephone on the telephone pole.
Okay.
And that's you would answer it, and who, you know, somebody would call to be wanted to be picked up. That's what I remember. Mm-hmm.
As for the town politics, such as, you know, the involvement of, you know, bringing in Walmart and everything, what was the governing body for the town?
The governing body, we had a town council that I remember. We have a mayor, you know, but we have a town council. And they were in charge.
And for recreation, I know you guys said you were outside a lot, and
We had Ashland Little League then. Little League started getting big as we got older, because we used to just entertain ourselves. But we had Little League. I was a cheerleader. My brother played football, and of course we had more girls, so we were all cheerleaders. So that was the biggest thing. We had basketball, Little League basketball. I wasn't into it, into sports per se, but yeah, all of that was going on.
did you have like any carnivals or?
Yeah. We used to have the fair come to Ashland, and I want to say every summer. Oh man, I missed that. The fair used to be where the baseball field is now, across from Henry Clay Elementary School. They used to set up there, and like I said, we were old enough we could go on out, you know, in those days, you know. And you would get so much money from Mom and them, and me and your friends and all, we'd go all around. They had rides, you know, little simple rides, and Ferris wheel and all that. Yeah, candy apples, that's all I wanted. All I wanted was that candy apple. And yeah, the fair used to come to Ashland every year when I was a child, every year. And the last time I can really remember the fair was when my grandmother, my father's mother, died. And at that time, I was probably 12 or 13 years old. That's the last thing I remember. Now, they may have kept coming in, but I don't think so. That's the last time I remember.
Because I know today I think they have the talent show or something. That means.
Oh, that's new. That's nothing like, you know, the fair we had come to Ashland was like going to the state fair.
Oh, okay.
It was just like that. That setup just like that. Clowns, and blackjack tables, and you know, balloons and I mean, just like the state fair. It was just a mini version of it on that big field. Yeah, everybody saw it. Everybody. It was like a massive either family reunion, you know. Everybody saw everybody there. We used to have fun. We used to have a lot of fun. Yeah, what they have now, even the Strawberry Fair, is nothing compared to how the fair used to be when we were coming up.
Okay. And that stopped around.
Let's see. My grandma died in what, 70? Like in 76. Because in 73, I think I was 9. And so, yeah, about 76 probably. Yeah, that I can last remember. Yeah, I used to like to go with my father because he had trash bins. We used to clean up after the fair would leave. And I loved doing it because we could find money. People would drop money. You used to make a lot of money cleaning up behind the fair. You just had to look in the grass real good. Of course, people trample the grass, but you could find coins and dollar bills. Yeah, I loved doing that job. And what you found, you kept.
Does your family have any stories about Ashland, like during the Civil War? Your family?
We never talked about it if they did, and my father's people died when I was young, so we never really talked about it per se, about the Civil War. Other than we just, you know, doing family background, you know, investigation of who our relatives were, you know. But other than that, never really heard much about the war.
I know that you had mentioned growing up, like schools, school-wise, they were segregated until a certain point. What was that like? I mean, growing
I
up.
never attended segregated school. I remember the days, I probably was about 5 years old, where I can remember little bits of it, but I didn't know that's what it was. You know, I didn't know any better. I remember going over to John M. Gandy when they have May Day, and that's when you used to, you know, march around the pole and wrap the ribbon around the pole. I remember that. I remember some of my older cousins, because at that time Lee Davis didn't allow them to come. They would come here. And I remember seeing them do the little bamboo sticks, and you had to jump in between. I remember have little memories of that. And we used to have field day. We used to go over there at field day, and that was like a huge picnic. You know, you go watch the different classes, compete. I remember some of those things. But when I started in '69, that was the year we integrated. So only memory that I have is when I went to catch the bus, and I was 5. Because I didn't turn 6 till later on in September, but I was 5, and I just remember all the mothers standing around at the bus stop at John M. Gandy waiting for us to get on the bus, you know, to make sure we're okay. I didn't know any different. I did not know that was a year that we integrated until, you know, I was old enough and somebody explained it, you know. God, I was probably an adult, and I didn't realize the impact then. And some of the memories that I've had living in the community where Gandy is, that some of the things I went to was an integrated type of segregated type of atmosphere, but I never attended segregated schools. Now, I never went to kindergarten, and I never went to Head Start because they weren't available when I started school. Now, my sister underneath me went to Head Start here at Duncan Memorial, and my brother did too. My baby sister, I think, went to kindergarten at Dr. Unger, the professor here. His wife was a kindergarten first grade teacher, and she's had my nieces, so she's been around. I talked the other day, she's been around forever. But my mother had to teach me how to read and write when I went to the first grade. She taught me how to do that, so I didn't have any of that like the others did.
And you said like when you came here to Randolph-Macon, you were of a very small minority.
Oh, yeah, it was very few of us here. I want to say that when I graduated in '85, it was more blacks here then, but 7 of us graduated together. I think all at once. But yeah, if one understand, it was only like 10 or so of us here, maybe out of 900 students. Yeah, it was very few of us here.
And you said that some students had attitudes.
Yeah, I remember now. Back in the day, and it probably not too much different now, because it's just pretty much across the board now. When I came to school here, you know, the type of family I had, we were down to earth family. We were a working family. I didn't want for anything. I was spoiled, but I worked. Where a lot of the kids that I went to school here, a lot of the white students that I went to school here, their parents were already wealthy, you know, and some of their parents were lawyers and doctors. So I didn't come up in that type of atmosphere, but I mean, my parents were lawyers or doctors, but they were business owners. And so some of them probably have never even been to school with a black student. Some of them probably hadn't, and some of them you could tell because the questions they would ask you. You could tell, how did you get your hair like that? You know, you could just say they had never really been around blacks, and then some of them had an attitude that they thought they were better. You know, and when I started, like I said, it was in '81, just coming fresh out of the '70s. You know, and so like I said, my generation really didn't have a whole lot of understanding other than what you hear your family always tell you, you know, about segregation. So my generation was just coming into integration. So whereas the classmates that were before me, the blacks that were here before me, they look after you. I can remember Michael McClendon and John Anderson. They were some of the older classmates. Alva Hughes. They were older classmates, and so they looked out after you because they knew what they experienced when they were on campus, and they got more. I think they received more. Probably had more problems than what we did. You know, because we were just a different generation. Although some stuff still existed. I wasn't the type of person that I would recognize it right away. It had to be blatant for me, whereas the older classmates were used to somebody telling them something very blatant. And some of them would tell me, you know, well, you want to avoid certain professors because they were very verbal in class. That same history professor, I never forgot, my first semester of my senior year, and he looked me in my face and told me Crispus Attucks was not the first to die in the American Revolution. So why are you looking at me and telling me that? You know, history is history. You only can go by what somebody tell you. You don't know. You weren't there. But, you know, it just, you know, I just never forgot that, you know. And you had some students, like I said, if they've never been to school with blacks, you know, they only going to repeat what they hear their parents say. So, you know, you've been called N-word, you know, or something like that. But, you know, that didn't stop me from getting my education. And I'm not here for you. I'm here for myself. I'm here to better myself. So that's how I looked at it, you know.
Well, I think we're coming around to the end here. Is there anything else you'd like to add or anything?
No, not really. No. Brought back some old memories. Really old memories, you know, about Randolph-Macon, you know, and about the town of Ashland. Yeah.
Well,
It's been an enjoyable interview. Yeah.
thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and
I thank you guys because I was just surprised to get a phone call. I was real surprised. I was like, well, what is it that I can tell them? Because I'm around here so much, so some of the people still work here, and some of them still teach here. So I see them all the time. I was like, well, what is there any new or different that they don't remember, you know, back then? And probably because I'm one of the few graduates that are still around here. I never really left. I moved away the day I graduated because I never, you know, been away from my parents. And I didn't stay long then. I ended up coming back. But I just always believe in giving back to my community. And so, you know, I just try to encourage other kids to go to college and try to encourage kids to come to school here, you know, and just value the education that's here too. And so, yeah, I'm probably one of the very few graduates that, you know, still in my own community and still around Randolph-Macon. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, you know. People are surprised when they hear that you went to Randolph-Macon, but you still live here in Ashland. Yeah, I still live here in Ashland. I said, there's work to be done. There's work to be done. You know, it's about giving back, and that's what I like doing. I like giving back, and they just prepared me on how to give back and to who. Yeah.
thank you so much.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Good.